The Indiana Hoosiers are 10-0 for the first time in their program history. And their quarterback, Kurtis Rourke, he needs to be in the Heisman conversation.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into this, the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Well, thank you so much to all my everydayers. Shout out to you for being back once again, as you do every single day. This podcast is free to you Monday through Friday with bonus episodes on the weekends. Trent Sisley signs with Indiana basketball. He is official. He's in the class. Can Indiana get anybody else for 2025? We have that coming up for you today. Plus, on the football recruiting side of things, Indiana lands an edge rusher from right here in the state of Indiana. But to start the show, Indiana is having their best football season ever. We all know that. It's all in the headlines. You and I talk about it every single day. And Kurtis Rourke deserves a ton of credit for that. So much so, I think he needs to be legitimately in the Heisman conversation. Not just sometimes mentioned in it, not just sometimes possibly have his name on a graphic. I'm talking about serious Heisman potential and contention here. Because without Kurtis Rourke, without Kurtis Rourke, put in Taven Jackson, nothing against him, put in any other quarterback that Indiana could have gotten out of the transfer portal legitimately, right? We've had that conversation before as well. Indiana's not 10-0. Indiana's not having their best season ever. Indiana is not a top 5 team in the country and not in contention for a college football playoff. Kurtis Rourke deserves not all, but a lot of that credit. And when you start breaking down some of the stats for Kurtis Rourke, right? 2,400 yards, 72% completion percentage. That's top 5 in the country, by the way. He's got 21 touchdowns to just 4 interceptions, and his quarterback rating is 3rd in the country at 182, only behind Jackson Dart and Arch Manning. Arch Manning hasn't even played all the games, right? So really, in terms of starters, he's 2nd best in quarterback rating, according to ESPN. His Pro Football Focus passer rating is the best in the country, is Kurtis Rourke's. And this is a guy that didn't play a game. So even with some of these other guys on here that haven't played all of their games, I mean, you're looking at Arch Manning at Texas and Hank Brown at Auburn. I mean, you're looking at guys that have not played the entire season. And Kurtis Rourke is technically in that category, but yet he's still top 5 in most major statistical categories. He deserves to have Heisman consideration. He deserves to at least, at bare minimum, be in New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony. And there is always the debate, right? There's always the debate of what does winning the Heisman Trophy mean? What does it mean to be a Heisman Trophy winner? And a lot of people like to compare this to an MVP award in the NFL or the NBA, which it's not the same thing. We have learned over time the Heisman Trophy and the MVP are not the same thing. The MVP is the most valuable player. And the way that I've always broken this down and the way I've always described this to people, the most valuable player is somebody that if he or she were not on that team, how different would their success rate be? Right? If you were to pick that player off the team and put in an average Joe, how much different would it look? Which is why I've always made the argument that you could give LeBron James the MVP award every single year in the NBA because of the impact and the effect that he has on his teams, right? The Heisman Trophy is a little bit different. They have let this become, and it used to not be this way, but they've let it just become, are you the best player on one of the best teams? That is basically what it comes down to. Are you an electrifying player that has helped your team make it a really long way. Now, there have been some exceptions. Okay, I think Johnny Manziel was an exception, which I'm not going to get into that right now. But their RG3, I think, is another example, right? Those Baylor and Texas A&M teams weren't flirting with national championships, but they were really, really good. But then you look at the Joe Burrows or the Cam Newtons or the other big-time quarterbacks that have won this award, and those teams were winning national championships. And so I think Kurtis Rourke, when you put him in this Heisman conversation, he's top 5 in betting odds on our friends at FanDuel, by the way. So just keep that in mind. Bettors still think he's got a shot at this thing. You look at what he's done. He is one of the best players in college football. How could you say he's not? When you watch him in the pocket and deliver the football on time, on target every single time. The guy doesn't throw interceptions. Now, he's taken a few sacks here recently, and especially in our last game against Michigan, but that was a really good defense, and our offensive line had to shift around due to some injuries. And so I don't blame him for that at all. But you're talking about a kid that came in as the MAC player of the year, who's in his 6th and final season of college football, and he's playing the best season of his life with 21 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. I know there's Cam Ward out there at Miami. I understand that, right? And here's your updated odds at FanDuel. Travis Hunter is actually the favorite right now to win the Heisman Trophy. Dylan Gabriel at Oregon, Ashton Genty at Boise State. He's slowed down just a hair. Cam Ward at Miami, and Kurtis Rourke at Indiana. Jalen Milroe at Alabama just under them as well. So Travis Hunter has become the favorite in the Heisman betting. And that's fascinating because Colorado could make the playoff, but I don't think they do. That just goes to show that it is the popularity contest in terms of who's the flashiest player in the sport. Don't think that's what it should be, but that's what it's become. And so we can't argue it because that's what it is. But all I'm saying is he's got good odds, he's got great numbers, and he is a winner. That should be rewarded with Heisman Trophy consideration. I think Kurtis Rourke should at least be in New York. And you know what? I'll make the statement. I think he will be in New York, especially if Indiana beats Ohio State. If the season ended right now, he should be in New York. Even if we don't beat Ohio State, and or make or miss the playoffs, right? There's a lot of factors there, and I hate that all that is there, but it's part of it. If the season ended right now, he should be in New York. If we beat Ohio State, he should be in New York. If we don't beat Ohio State, if he has a bad game, that may hurt his odds for sure, but I think if you have a decent game against Ohio State and to finish the season out, even if you don't make a playoff or win it all or whatever, Kurtis Rourke should be in New York at the Heisman Trophy ceremony. I think he's one of the best players in college football. He's having one of the best seasons in college football, and so is his team, the Indiana Hoosiers. Well, coming up right here on Locked On Hoosiers, speaking of football, going to look at recruiting a little bit as Curt Cignetti and the guys get an in-state edge rusher. They add to what is a huge 2025 class. We're talking about that coming up next on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. All right, get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, like you can tonight, huge game, Commanders and Eagles. Yes, 7:15, 8:15, depending on where you are. Huge game. Thursday night football between the Commanders and the Eagles. So if you get a hunch in the middle of that, you can check out the latest stats, view play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you so much for being here, and shout out to all of my everydayers, those of you that come back each and every day right here on the Locked On Hoosiers YouTube channel, or for those of you listening on your audio podcasting platforms, Apple, Spotify, you name it, we're there. So be sure that you are listening on there or watching us on YouTube, and make sure you're coming back every single day. All right, we got episodes for you Monday through Friday and some bonus content on the weekend. So I don't want you to miss that. So be sure that you are checking us out, you're following us, you're subscribed to us, all that good stuff. I really do appreciate you doing all of that. Indiana football continues to recruit really, really well, and they're doing it right here in the home state. They get a big-time edge rusher here this week as Indiana is able to land Tyrone Burrus. He is the in-state edge. He's a 3-star from Warren Central High School in Indianapolis. A 3-star recruit, 6'4", 235. That ain't no joke. That's nothing to complain about. 6'4", 235 pounds. He was committed to Louisville for quite some time, actually, and decides to flip to Indiana as a hard commit. That's as of this morning, okay? So that's breaking news as of today. And Indiana adds to what is a pretty solid 2025 recruiting class, because Burrus is in the 2025 class. They add to a class that now has 21 commits. Yes, 21 commits. And look, it's not fair right now to look at the team recruiting rankings on whatever site that you want to. I use 247. You can use whoever you want to. Looking at the team rankings just isn't, I don't know, fair for this Indiana program right now, because we're just getting started. But even if you do, right, we're still a top 50 recruiting program right now, which is not something where we've been for quite some time. All of our commits are 3-stars, yes, but we have 21 of them. 21 guys in the 2025 class have committed to say, I want to play football at Indiana. And I don't think we're done in the 25 class. And we're definitely still putting in work for 26, 27, and beyond. Have you seen the list of people and recruits that come to this campus when football games have happened this year? It's been unbelievable. And hopefully we have that for the Purdue game at the end of the season as well. But again, Indiana gets Tyrone Burrus, 6'4", 235. This kid can play, man. He can absolutely play. He's a 7th ranked player in the state of Indiana. And if a 3-star doesn't blow you away, just go watch this dude's film. Go watch it. I watched it this morning as I was preparing for the show. He gets after the football, man. He really, really does. He gets off the edge quickly, gets off the snap quickly, and just has really good instincts, right? He's good at adjusting mid-play. If he guessed wrong, well, he'll make up for it. And I think that's what Indiana is currently working with, right, on the defensive side of the football, on the edge, and even in that linebacker spot too. And I think Tyrone Burrus is going to fit right in with that here at Indiana. And to take this a step further, right, you continue to land guys in the state of Indiana, right? You continue to land guys from Indiana. Let's count them right now for you. 1, 2, let's see. You have 3, 4, you have 5. So 5 of your 21 commits are from the state of Indiana. Not bad. Could be more, could be worse. But I think another storyline here, as we are looking through this list again, is, man, look at all the other states that you have represented. Tennessee, Georgia, Missouri, Ohio, Florida, Wisconsin, Virginia. That's 7 by my count. Did I count Illinois? I don't think I did. 8. North Carolina, 9. You have 9 separate states outside of Indiana that is represented for you in your 2025 class. So if Kurt Signetti and this staff can continue to go out and get big players out of big states, including Ohio, Tennessee, Florida, really Georgia, those are great states for college football talent. And Kurt Signetti and his staff have gone in there and done it. They're not afraid to go and try to get some players out of there. And so the goal now, right? The goal now, wrap up your 25 class. I know the quarterback situation is still up in the air, but I don't know. The goal now moving forward is to continue to get guys in state, continue to go get players out of state, but then to slowly get better players, right? Nothing wrong with the guys we've got. I think they're going to be really good players. And if Kurt Signetti and this staff want them, I trust them. I think you should too. And I hope that you do. And so the goal now, right, as you're not even a full year into your regime here, is to just slowly start getting better players. You can get higher ranked 3 stars, then you dip into 4 stars. You get high ranked 4 stars. You get that 1 5-star that can almost seal the class or could accelerate the class. Like, that's how recruiting works, man. It is a trendy business. And if you are able to just stack a couple of dudes in a class and then start stacking classes, right, for a guy that we believe wants to be here long-term, talking about Kurt Signetti. Did a great episode on that this week. In case you missed it here on the channel, go back and catch up with that. But for a guy that we believe wants to be here long-term, that's the goal now, is finish out this season and start stacking classes. And good thing is you can go and use the transfer portal, which we know he's not afraid to do. That's exactly what he did when he got hired here. But I am curious on what the roster looks like after this season. I know you've got seniors and graduating and things like that. We understand that. But I'm just talking about in the transfer portal, right? How many guys stay? How many guys are told to, hey, time to hit the road, Jack? I don't know. We're going to have to see, because we don't know how this organization, if you will, lack for a better word, I guess, that we don't know how they operate. We don't know how Signetti is going to treat all of these guys in the offseason. With respect, I would hope, but you get what I'm saying here. So you're going to bring in some guys through the portal, plus you're bringing in at least 21 players through a 2025 recruiting class, thanks to Tyrone Burrus committing this morning. And you probably feel pretty good about where you stand if you're Indiana football for the future. So I like this kid. Again, 3-star recruit, 6'4", 235. He is the 7th ranked player in the state of Indiana. He's a top 40 edge player across the country. All right, he's 37th in the country at his position. So the guy can play some football. All right, and he joins the 2025 class. It's ranked in the top 50. A lot of 3 stars in there. A lot of big-time players. You've got edge players, defensive line, wide receiver, tight end, running back, more defensive line, offensive linemen, linebackers, corners, safeties. Heck, you even got a kicker in there, man. You even got a kicker in there as well. So really, really good put-together class for 2025 for Kurt Signetti and Indiana football. Well, coming up on our final segment on today's Locked On Hoosiers episode, we're sticking with recruiting just on the basketball side of things. As Trent Sisley officially signs with Indiana, he has been signed, sealed, and delivered. We'll talk about what that means and what that means moving forward for Indiana recruiting in 2025 and beyond. That's coming up in our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time's got a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands and thousands of tickets. It's the best way to find tickets, I'm telling you. I was a little skeptical. I was like, I don't know. I can pick my own seat, right? Nah. Game Time Picks, let them do it, man. I'm telling you. They pick out the best seats for the best price, and you're in and out in less than 5 minutes. You make your account, just buy the tickets, and boom, you're ready to go. You combine that, right, with their all-in pricing, where if you toggle that feature, it shows you your total upfront, so there's no surprise fees, and you know exactly what you're going to pay. You blend those two things together, and it's the best app in the business for buying tickets. And you can see your view from your seat, a panoramic view, any seat, any venue, so you're not shocked when you show up, and you're not disappointed when you show up because you know what you were buying at the very beginning. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKED ONCOLLEGE for $20 off. That's Locked On College. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Final segment on Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you again for being here, and shout out to all of my everydayers. And if you're just now discovering us for the first time, or you're just coming back for your second, third, fourth time, I really do appreciate you being here. And I hope that you're enjoying all the content, whether you listen on your audio platforms, again, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, however you find us there. Thank you so much for doing that. And for those of you on YouTube, be sure that you like the video on YouTube. Comment down below your thoughts on Kurtis Rourke for Heisman, your thought on Indiana football recruiting. And we're about to get into basketball recruiting as well. So be sure you get in on the conversation there and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. We're almost at 3,500 subscribers, folks. It's crazy to see how this show is growing every single day, and you're a huge part of that. So thank you so much for that. I really do appreciate your support, and however you support the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. Well, Indiana basketball got some good news, as we have been waiting on this to officially happen, and I don't think there was any concern here, but it's always nice when the pen hits the paper. Trent Sisley has signed with Indiana. He will be a part of the roster next season. Of course, he is the lone recruit, the lone commit, now the lone signee for Indiana basketball in 2025. And there was some concern from Indiana fans when a recruiting director got fired and got released, and they were worried if that would affect Trent Sisley and where he was going to go. I don't think it was going to. Obviously, it did not. I don't think it was going to, but even if it did have an effect, man, it was so late in the game that I don't think you would want to leave anyway. I mean, that's just a heck of a process to try to go through. And so regardless, Trent Sisley is in. He is signed. He will be an Indiana Hoosier. Mike Woodson had a few things to say. He said, quote, Trent is a young man that we have prioritized for a long time. He is the ideal player for me and my staff. He is a long, rangy, versatile player that can do a lot of things for us on the basketball floor. He is switchable on defense, a very good rebounder, and possesses a level of toughness that was very attractive to us in the recruiting class. He goes on to say, this is from a press release, by the way. He goes on to say that offensively, he has the ability to play multiple positions, push the ball in transition, make shots from the perimeter, and take advantage of mismatches inside. Hoosier Nation will love Trent's competitiveness and desire to win. We are extremely excited to get Trent to Bloomington on to reunite him with his siblings who already attend IU and be a part of our basketball family. Reminder, this is a top 75 player in the 2025 class. And the things that Woodson said, yeah, I tend to agree with. He's a great shooter. He's a great ball handler. He is very aggressive with the basketball in his hands. And so I think that may be, I don't know, probably something that Indiana has to work out of him a little bit, play a little bit more team basketball. He's one of those kids out of the state of Indiana where, look, he played on his high school teams, he played on his AAU teams, and he was always one of the best dudes out there. So it was easy for him to say, hey, give me the ball. I got this. And he did. And he would go make a bucket or 2 or 3 or 50, right? That's just what guys like Trent Sisley do. And for him, and just the size that he brings, I think is really, really fun because he's 6'7", right? 6'7". Indiana will hopefully put a little bit of muscle on him just to keep his own in the Big Ten. But all the things that Woody talked about, his competitiveness and his will to win and his rebounding and his defense and transition offense, like, man, that screams Indiana. That screams Mike Woodson for sure. And there's no doubt that they really, really like this kid. And I know that there are a lot of Indiana fans that are disappointed because he seems to be the only one in that class. He is right now. And seems like all signs are pointing to that to remain the same as of right now. I know there's a few names floating out there that we are keeping our eye on here at Locked On Hoosiers. But in terms of what this class could have been versus what it is right now, I get it, man. I get it. There's a lot of disappointment here because you missed out on Harrelson and Mullins and Reeby and all these different guys and Ament and Michael and guys like that. I mean, just so many big time players that Indiana was in for and could not lock down. And we're tired of seeing that. We are. We're very tired of seeing that. But you do have another center out there. You still got Michael Brown out there. There are still some options and some opportunities for Indiana to make this class better. But in this day and age, as you and I have talked about several times, even if you don't go get anybody else, even if Sisley is the only one in your 2025 class, the good news is a new era has begun with the transfer portal. We did it this year. We could do it again next year. Go get some dudes. You don't have to get as many as this past year. Go get 3, 4, maybe 5 players. And if you do that, you're going to be okay. You're going to be good. Depends on what your retention looks like in terms of guys going to the next level, transferring out, whatever the case may be. But I think Indiana's going to be in an okay spot. Could we get somebody else in 2025 in terms of recruiting? Yes, absolutely. But if we don't, you've still got the transfer portal and you still have a solid roster that will return here next year. But good to see that Trent Sisley, the 6'7" forward from Indiana, has officially signed with the Hoosiers. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Again, thank you all for being here. I'm having a blast, and I hope you can see it. I hope you can hear it. I hope you feel it with all the content that we're trying to put out for you guys as much as I can. I promise. It's crazy right now, but I'm committed to this, and I'm so happy to be here, and I'm so happy that you're here as well, and hopefully you're enjoying it as much as I am. Be sure that you are following us on Twitter, X, at Locked On Hoosiers. Be sure you're following us and subscribe to us on YouTube and on your audio platform. I don't want you to miss anything because we don't just post videos and episodes every day. We post polls and reels and all sorts of reactionary things for you to be a part of. So don't miss any of it here on Locked On Hoosiers. We're back tomorrow, Hoosier fans. We're talking Indiana basketball as the Hoosiers get ready for South Carolina. We'll have that for you coming up tomorrow. So until then, stay safe. I'll talk to you later.